for the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost in Houston, Texas. And I'm your host, Laurel Rutledge, and I cannot wait for the show to start because spending Tuesday mornings with you is a highlight of my week. And if you're listening or watching on one of my pages, be sure to give StreamYard permission so I can see your name and I can see your comments. And let me know where you're tuning in from so I can give you a shout out on the air. I know we have a global audience, and I want to acknowledge you for taking the time to listen to me. For those of you in my time zone, and for those of you who are way out of it. I also want to welcome your questions and your comments. Now, I got to run so I can get ready. See you soon.
Good morning. We are going to be starting here shortly, y'all. So excited. It's right at 10 o'clock. We're giving people a couple minutes to log in. It says to the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost, here in Houston, Texas. We're going to be talking about, make that move. Jerry listens to me. I don't think she did because I told her we're talking about moving in silence today. So we're going to talk about making that move. I love the radio. I love music. How about y'all? And I was just listening to Shalimar on the way here. This exact song. See? I love it. Good morning, y'all. See, this is how you know you are where you're supposed to be. I have literally I have Sirius XM in my car. I normally listen to between NPR Now and Radio Classic. So I listen to old stuff, like talk, radio shows. And, but the last few days I've been listening to music because I just talk, too much talk. Good morning, Deanna. Too much talk. And so I've been listening to The Groove. And literally as I was driving across the bridge coming here, I was listening to Shalimar because I listened to, again, old stuff, y'all. People play new stuff and I'm like, I don't even know who that is. Shalimar, Make That Move. And it just happened to come up and I'm talking about moving in silence today. And then Jerry played that right now. See? Mind meld, I'm telling you. So good morning. Welcome to the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show here in Houston, Texas, on the corner of Alameda and Wichita in the historic Third Ward at the historic KCOH TV Radio, The Boost station with our looking glass window here in the corner. So if you're in Houston and you're driving by, give us a wave, give us a honk. Try not to drive your motorcycle by because see that noise is just too much, but we love to see you. So thank you for coming by. There's going to be some amazing stuff coming up on the show over the summer with everything that's going on. I've got some people coming in that one are going to be uplifting, but also we're going to just be talking about all this craziness that's going on too. Because to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been given this platform. And so I cannot be here and show up every day without talking about the stuff that's important. So first off, because of what's going on and because of the anger and depression and fear and all of those things that are coming up, let me remind you, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255. And on the 16th of this month, the new rapid number goes in 988. On the 16th of July, it'll be nationwide. But the national number, 800-273-8255, that's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So for those women who, for all of us whose choices have now been taken away, and for those of you who are in a different situation and are really struggling, one, if that's your friend, if you see something, say something. 800-273-8255. If it's you, go seek some assistance. Go find someone. I'm seeing more and more people across this country and across the world saying, if you need help, if you need assistance, if you need support, if you need somebody to whisk you away, my house is open. So just be mindful because there are probably some people who are nefarious who are like, my house is open. The next thing you know, you'll be under somebody's jail. So just be cautious. But seek assistance. Elections, because voting matters. Voting matters. Elections have consequences. Voting matters. And for those of you who are having some of this righteous indignation, this has been 50 years in the making, and this is not the first thing that's about to fall. This has been coming. And most of us who look like me or similar to me have seen this coming for decades. Decades. So everyone who's acting all surprised, I don't know what to tell you. Um, Maybe now you're fired up to actually show up to vote. I hope so, because it's way past time. Because now, we've lost a battle, a significant battle. The war's not over, but it's going to be bloody. I was talking to my attorney the other day, and he's like, this kind of change is bloody change, actually and metaphorically. It is bloody change. So we got to all be ready. If we're not going to just give up, we got to all be ready. Um, on the 5th, so nothing happening this week, but on the 5th, so right after the 4th holiday, there's a runoff in North Carolina. Get registered, get voted. It's probably too late. If you're not registered, you can't vote in this runoff election in North Carolina. I don't know if North Carolina, I should have looked this up, so I apologize. I don't know if North Carolina lets you register the day of. I do not think so. It's a southern state. I do not think so. But go check, which leads me to my next thing for you for voting. Vote.gov, G-O-V, vote.gov. You can go there and get all of the rules about registering to vote. Good morning, Rolanda. Go get all the rules on registering to vote, when you have to register, how you register, what the rules are, checking your registration. All of that happens at vote.gov. You can go there and find out what the rules are where you are. If you are turning 18, go get registered. Go take your friends with you, make it a party. Y'all go get registered and make sure you understand the rules. Where do I have to go? Can I do it online? How do I check it? Does it happen when I get my driver's license? Go get the rules, even print out those rules. Make sure you have them and keep them with you at all times when you get ready to vote. And if your registration doesn't show up, make sure you're doing everything you need to do so that somebody can't do some kind of loophole, and stay paying attention, because people are trying to do some shady shenanigans right now. After the fact. So please, please, please pay attention. It is so important. Yes, absolutely. On the heels of one, Rolanda, on the heels. Make sure you're paying attention. So vote.gov to understand all the registration rules across the nation. Across the nation. Make sure you understand the rules. The election protection hotline, because again, this is about to get ugly. So as more and more people show up, because I do believe people are going to show up and show out, I am believing that. That means that those folks who don't want you to show up, those folks who think they have the right to tell you what your choices should and should not be, the anti-choice movement is not a pro-life movement. The anti-choice movement, there are going to be people who are going to show up and make it dangerous for you to be there. Let's just call it like it is, right? So you need to be vigilant. You don't need to be fearful. You just need to be vigilant. You need to pay attention. You need to watch around you. It's not the same world, right? We just need to watch around us, pay attention, right? If you see something, say something. And I don't mean the nefarious, oh my God, his dog attacked me, when we're seeing on camera that that's not true. I'm not talking about those folks. I'm talking about legitimate, dangers to your safety. Make sure you have these numbers. So the election protection hotline. If something's going on when you get ready to go vote, here's the number to call. For English, 866-687-8683. I posted this on all my social media on Monday. For Spanish, 888-839-8682. And I will repost these. Or you can go to whenweallvote.org. Whenweallvote.org. They have this listed along with election rights, your election rights, and voting rights. 844-925-5287 is for Arabic. 888-274-8683 is Asian and Pacific Islanders, those languages like Tagalog, Chinese, those kind of things, those languages, API languages, 888-274-8683. And then you can also go to ballotpedia.org to get the election calendars. So it is time. It's past time. It's been time. But it's really, stop sitting. Stop sitting. It's time to move into action, right? It's just time to do that. Now, some additional information. And I'm going to actually have someone, I'm reaching out to several people, and Jerry had someone on her show, Dominique on her show yesterday. And I'm going to have somebody on the Rutledge Perspective show too, because there are companies who are saying, wait, we're not aligned. 64% of people didn't want this to be overturned or sent back to the states. 64%. So you 64% need to make sure you're voting in your state and local elections. And it needs to start local. So vote in the state election, but you need to vote in your cities. City council, school boards, trash collector. You need to vote in the local elections because that's where it starts, and vote in your state elections because now that this has been thrown to the states, we've got all kinds of shady shenanigans happening. Here are some organizations that have decided, yeah, this is nuts, and we're going to make sure we take care of our people because over 50% of the working population is women. Over 50%. So you think you've got a great resignation happening now. Women are also the highest percentage of entrepreneurs, right? Women are making it happen. And working women, working mothers, right, are making it happen. So corporate America, be cautious. So these are the ones who are saying, yeah, not us. We're gonna do something to protect our people. Accenture, Adobe, Airbnb, Bank of America, Box, BuzzFeed, Civitech, Condé Nast, Dick's Sporting Goods. They just opened a new Dick's near me. Dick's Sporting Goods, Disney, DoorDash, Douglas Elliman, Expedia, Google, H&M, Impossible Foods, Intuit, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, Levi, Lyft, Meta, Microsoft, Netflix, Nike, Nordstrom, OpenSea, Patagonia. Patagonia is always out there in front, y'all. Patagonia, PwC, Reddit, Starbucks, Tesla, Uber, Vox, Warner Brothers, Wells Fargo, Yelp, and Zillow. Those are just a few of the ones that have said, no, we're gonna take care of you. And some of the things that they're doing now, because there is going to be litigation around insurance programs. There will be litigation, you guys. There is such a thing as ERISA for insurance plans. So you have to follow and be compliant with ERISA for your insurance plans. And parts of ERISA include you cannot have discriminatory insurance plans. So now, because people are in multi-states, what are they going to do with ensuring that all of their people have access to the same health care, right? So it's about to be a mess. There's going to be tons of litigation and tons of gray area. But organizations that really care about this are getting creative and doing things like, we are going to reimburse you for travel up to, I think the last one I saw was up to $4,000 for you and a person to go with you to seek these kind of services, because this decision is a health care decision. They're supporting their employees this way. Some of them are not changing their policies. They're going to keep it in their policies. That might be a little bit harder depending on what the states are, because there is a state, I believe it was Missouri, that is doing a total ban. A total ban. That means if you're dying, what they've said is it's okay for mothers to die. That's what they've said. It's a total ban. That's what that means. So words matter. Total ban means no exceptions. So you are bleeding out, right? You got an ectopic pregnancy. You're bleeding out. Tell your other kids, your husband, your family, goodbye. You're done. That's what that means. So I just need you guys, whatever your position is, I need you guys to be reading this stuff. And don't just take somebody else's word for it. I need you to be an adult and go read it for yourself. Someone posted something. I made a comment that said elections have consequences, and somebody sent me some stuff about, Democrats are doing this and they're, talking about this and they're doing and the independent. And I thought, okay, one, I'm disconnecting from this conversation because I'm okay about having disagreements with adults. I'm okay with that because we don't have to agree on everything. Being adult is not about agreeing on everything. What it is about being able to disagree without being disagreeable. To be able to listen and understand and keep your perspective, or potentially be mature enough to change your perspective on something. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean we have to be nasty. I also think it's important for you guys to get real facts, like real science, right? So all of these heartbeat laws, well, of course, the first thing you're going to hear is a heartbeat because nothing else can form without the heartbeat. But a heartbeat does not a viable human being make. That's the science. That's the science. So get active. All I'm saying is get active. Jump up and get active. Go vote. Go take people to vote. If there's voter suppression going on, make sure it's happening. Understand that there's lots of gerrymandering. So when you're starting to get people to vote, make sure, even as they've gerrymandered, if everybody shows up, even gerrymandering cannot prevent those who have a voice from exercising their voice. Go out and vote. Get registered and go exercise your right to vote. So again, as I tell you guys all the time, it's the Rutledge perspective. I'm Laurel Rutledge. We are always going to talk about voting. We are always going to talk about issues. If that's a problem, I get it. I'm not for everybody. That's okay. It's okay. But to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've got this platform. I'm not going to have this platform without talking about voting and without holding myself and others accountable for the truth and for facts. Okay. So if that's irritating for you, tune in about 20 minutes later. I'm not offended, but we're going to talk about this every time. So go get registered, go vote. Vote.gov to find out all the rules for registration across the nation. Ballotpedia to understand the elections calendar. And you can break that down on Ballotpedia, whether you're just looking for primaries, whether you're just looking for statewide elections. I mean, you can break it down. It's really an excellent site, ballotpedia.org. Make sure you are, I should call them and say, hey, you need to sponsor my show because I talk about you every time. Ballotpedia.org and vote.gov to get good information. .gov should be really good sites, you guys. If you see something .gov, G-O-V, generally that's going to be something that you can rely on. SCOTUS.gov, Supreme Court of the United States.gov, go see what's on the docket, because that's the other thing. Not, fear mongering or any of that, but this is the beginning. This is the beginning. This is what happens when the court is stacked the way it is. So this is the beginning. I did see some posts, so I'm just letting everybody know. I did see some posts that the Loving decision was next. That's about interracial marriage, that was next, that's on the Supreme Court docket. I did not see that. I looked through everything that I could find. I did not see that there was a case that addressed interracial relationships or marriage that is coming up on the Supreme Court docket anytime soon. I did not see that, but I could have missed it. So if we're going to get up in arms and get outraged, let's get outraged about what's real, right? Let's not create additional consternation for ourselves about stuff we don't have to fight, right? Now, one person that was commenting with this morning who was bringing up all this madness, one thing that they did say is you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. There's one side that's been playing chess and we've been playing checkers. The nice people, the people in the middle, the people who are willing to compromise have been too silent and too slow. So it is time to understand that there is a battle. There's a battle for rights, right? There's a battle for what does it really mean to be a constitutionalist? Because if we are a constitutionalist, that means that I am 3/4 of a person. That's what that means. That means women don't get a right to vote, right? You got all these amendments that they could just upend. Okay, so there is a slippery slope here. That is real. Now, how slippery the slope, we don't know. None of us have crystal balls, but we should not get caught on our heels again. We need to be paying attention. We need to be paying attention and we need to act. All right. Okay. So today, speaking of acting, today I'm going to be talking about moving in silence. I posted yesterday, don't talk about it, be about it. It's almost like channeling Stacey Abrams, right? She was vocal and she was talking about some things, but when she really made sure that things were happening, that people were voting, that people could get out to vote, she wasn't just talking about a whole lot of stuff. She was acting. She was moving. She was making things happen, right? Sometimes you got to move in silence. You don't need to tell everybody what's going on. Everybody doesn't need to know all of your business. Sometimes you just need to move. Now, of course, that taken to an extreme, you've got, all the conspiracy theorists, you got, spying and all that kind of stuff, right? You got on anything taken to an extreme can be a problem, right? Anything taken to an extreme can be nefarious. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is sometimes we talk about stuff and never move. We pontificate about all the things that need to be happening. How long did it take to get some kind of gun law? And why did that happen? Right? Because we had 20 babies that were killed, but we had that many that were killed at Sandy Hook, and it took this long? Really? Y'all don't be crazy. You know why that happened. That happened because we got 2022 midterms coming up. It was proximity. And people got vocal. That's why it happened. Right? And while you saw some people cross the aisle to approve it, common sense. That moving in silence, the challenge with moving in silence and the challenge with some of our conversations is that he who controls the narrative controls the minds. And we have taken words and distorted them for our own purposes. Choice means choice. That's exactly what it means. I have a choice. Woke, all of a sudden, is this flash word. Indoctrination. There's a real meaning to indoctrination. And critical race theory is not indoctrination. Critical race theory is like, here's what really happened. Here's the facts of what happened. But we've got to learn what moving in silence means. That means figure out what your plan is and maybe get a bunch of people involved, right? Get your village going, get moving, but act. You don't have to tell everybody what you're doing. It's just like when you get ready to go out of town. You don't announce to the world, hey, I'm going to be gone, right? Come rob my house. You don't do that. Sometimes you just move in silence. This goes for you guys in organizations as well. This goes for you in organizations. Why do they say, it's easy to dismiss the person that's talking all the time, and the person that gets the most attention is the one that's silent? Pay attention, listen, observe, listen actively, and then move. Make your move, take your action, get your strategy together and keep it going, right? You don't have to announce to everybody what your next steps are going to be. You don't have to tell everybody what you're going to be doing. That's not necessary. What's necessary is to act, right? And what's happening is we're seeing that play out because there are lots of places on the fringes who have been moving in silence for a very, very long time. And what happens is because they've been moving in silence, they've got everything planned, they're able to come out and surprise everybody else, even though they are fringes. They are not majority opinion. It's the same thing in organizations. If you're moving in silence and you just make some things happen, when you're ready to announce, it's good to go because you've got everything planned and you caught people flat-footed, right? You caught people before they could jack it all up, before they could make all the naysay, before they could do all of that stuff. You were already ready down the road. You're moving. Learn to move in silence. Learn to not have to talk about every step. They tell entrepreneurs all the time, they're like, don't tell everybody what your goals are. And whether it's entrepreneurs or just your career or whatever, don't tell everybody what your every move is. One, it's none of their business. But two, not everybody who's talking to you about your desires and your dreams and your goals has your best interest in mind. And when you tell people what you're going to do and what your next steps are, there could be folks who are there with you who are going to be doing everything they can to make sure that that doesn't work. You don't need to tell everybody everything. Yes, it's not unkind to be clear. You need to be talking to people. It's not unkind to be clear, but that doesn't mean you have to give everybody every piece of information that you have. That's not necessary. Even when you're a leader, you need to be talking to people. They need to understand what the general goal is and what the general direction is. But especially when things are not even controversial, but when things are very difficult, when the change is going to be very difficult, people generally need to know that there's going to be a change, but all of the detailed steps, you may not necessarily need to be telling everybody that. You need to be making that strategic decision, that strategic move, and then moving and preparing and being ready to respond with why and how and what and how we're going to make it happen and how you're going to bring people in. You need to be able to respond to the questions, but sometimes you need to be able to move in silence because you've got to focus. You got to focus on execution. Mm-hmm. And if you got too many cooks in the kitchen, what is it? Too many cooks in the kitchen spoils the stew. Too many cooks in the kitchen spoils the stew, right? Sometimes it's just too much. You need to be able to learn how to move in silence. Everybody doesn't need to know everything. In fact, most of the time, most people don't need to know everything. And please don't get this confused with transparency and authenticity. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about being nefarious. I'm not talking about lying to people. I'm talking about being discerning in who needs to know what and when. All of these things that have been happening to us have been planned for a very, very long time. All of these things we have contributed to. So we can't just sit back and be victims. We can't play the victim card here. Each and every one of us contributed to where we are now. We contributed. I saw a post, a friend of mine sent me a video yesterday when we talk about moving in silence. And this is the big cultural thing, right? And I've had this conversation many times with people, and it was so nice to hear somebody else have it. And I don't know this person. I've never followed them before, but she sent me a video. And the video happened to be a Black man talking on a podcast with Black people. And he was saying, what happens is in our community, when we get wealth, and he was speaking in generalities, he said not all Black people, but many, especially those who come from very, very tough backgrounds, who have had nothing, right? There's this desire to seek and to prove worthiness through things. So like you said, it's not about the Jordans, it's about what the Jordans mean. It's not about the Mercedes Benz. It's not about the Louis Vuitton bag. It's not about the thing. It's about what the thing represents. It's about what the thing means. Now, there are some people who generally just love it. I mean, I have a Mercedes. Now, I bought mine because I drove everything. I grew up in Texas. I learned to drive in a Suburban. Everything I drove felt like I was driving a cotton ball. And I'm like, I'm driving 100 miles a day on the highway. I need something that's going to have a big enough cage around me that if some nut hits me, I have a higher likelihood of survival. So for me, it's about how things are made, right? But I may be a little bit unusual. Maybe, because I also love muscle cars. That's just it. But his point was, we get flashy and put all these things out to kind of prove our worth or to say we could fit in. I used to always say, when I think back and I try to sit outside of the direct experience and just look kind of from afar. And I used to say all the time, I'm like, man, we get flashy, right? We got to have the biggest hair. We got to have the longest hair. We got the longest nails. We got to have colors. And we just, the longest, now it's lashes, right? The longest, we got to be extra all the time. Big, flashy, loud, all that stuff, all of the time, all the time. And when I sat back and looked at that, I'm like, you know what? But I believe some of that when they talk about epigenetics is that idea that there is ancestral trauma that continues to show up. There were many years, 400 years of not having access to those things, of not being allowed to have those things, of ownership. As Harriet Tubman said, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if they only knew they were slaves, right? There's that mentality of never being able to buy what we wanted, to have what we wanted, to show what we wanted. And so there's almost this a subconscious need to show what we've got, to show who we are, to show what we have, to show our worth and our worthiness and the fact that you should let me into the club because I've got all these things. It's a cultural thing, right? Or it can be. And again, I know I'm spreading peanut butter, so I want to acknowledge that this is not all people. It's not all people. It's not all Black people. It's not all brown people. It just tends to be a cultural kind of indicator of challenges and of the oppression for many, many years. And there are people who have gotten out of it. There are people now who are really, really focused on what does generational wealth really mean? Because if you look at people who have real money, they may have a really cool house and they may have one like really cool car, right? But people with real money, you know it by the way they carry themselves. You don't know it by the stuff they have. They're not being flashy. They don't have the next best, greatest thing all the time. It's where they are. It's when they show up. It's how they show up, right? They may be put together. I have a really good friend of mine who came from lots of money. And we used to always say, you know what? The only reason we know you have lots of money is because of the way you carry yourself, right? The way you sit, the way you eat when you go to a restaurant, the way, there are things that show breeding, right? Good breeding, show you've been somewhere, that you've been exposed to things. But you wouldn't know by her house, her cars, her clothes, now very well put together, very clean. But my dad used to always say, spend money on clothes that last. Don't spend money on the latest fad. Spend more money on good quality stuff that's always going to have a real clean, classic look. And so moving in silence includes how you're moving in general. If you got the flashiest thing, you got the next greatest, you got the latest and greatest, what's behind that? That's all the superficial stuff. But who are you? What are you bringing to the table? What action are you taking? What change are you making? What impact are you having? Because that big house, that big car, that flashy stuff is great. And do you, boo? If that's your thing that matters to you, do that. And be cautious of the folks, as they used to say, the people when I was living in Odessa, right? Living in a shack, but driving a Cadillac. Now, if what's more important to you is your ride than your house, okay. I'm not judging. You do what it needs to be to you, for you. What I'm saying is moving in silence means everybody doesn't need to know everything. And that flashiness that you see on whoever isn't always indicative of quality, isn't always indicative of depth, isn't always indicative of real impact that's being made. Think about Mackenzie Scott, how much money Mackenzie Scott has after divorcing, right? What's she doing? She's giving it away silently. So we only know where she's giving it because people are like, oh my God, I just got the check from Mackenzie Scott. That's how we know. She's not publicizing it. She's not telling people where she's giving her money. And she's got real money. Real money. Move in silence. If you're in a position now where you're like, you know what, this is just not my thing. This is not where I'm going to be. I know, I don't know where it is, but this is not it. Get quiet. Don't change your behavior. Don't, stop performing. Don't get all rude and nasty. Don't get your attitude all jacked up because that's just not where you want to be. Check your attitude. Right? Because those changes, those subtle changes, especially if you are an other, if you have an ism attached to you, those subtle changes, people are paying attention to. What's she doing? Where's she going? She used to always be nice. She used to show up to every meeting. She used to, all those used to's start making people question what you're doing. Now you can use that strategically too, right? Sometimes you want people to just be off kilter just a little bit. You don't want them to know so much about that you can't surprise them every once in a while, right? But moving in silence means you also silence your reactions to stuff, or you silence your moves. You don't change behavior. You silence the things for you that are, unnegotiable, non-negotiables. You silence those. It came to me a long time ago, right? It was like, look, we're going to have these conversations. Y'all have heard me say this before. It is not unkind to be clear. Let's set expectations early. Let's just talk about, I have no reason talking about it because see, then I'm going to know where your position is and then I got a decision to make. And once I know where you are, then the ball's back in my court. So I'm like, oh, okay, now I see you. Now I know. Okay. No judge, no harm, no foul. Now I know information is power. Now I know. Now I know what I need to do. And I can move in silence and make that happen. All of these companies that are like, oh my God, I can't believe you left. But did we know she was going to leave? Did we know they were going to quit? You knew if you were paying attention. But they knew that you weren't. And they knew that fundamentally, you didn't really care. Fundamentally, what was more important for you was your position and your desire and your need. You weren't really paying attention to the people around you. You weren't really paying attention to the women who were trying to decide how and if and when they were coming back to the workforce. You weren't paying attention. And then you got all shocked and bothered and hurt when they decided to go somewhere else, to take their talents and their skills and their loyalty somewhere else. You got surprised. You got hurt. You didn't understand. And that's just not just men, y'all. There are women in those positions too who just are not in tune, right? Leadership is about behavior. It is not about position. And bad leaders come in all shapes, sizes, genders, colors, all of that. Just because you're a woman doesn't make you an exceptional leader. Let's just call it what it is. Okay. But that moving in silence is power. Being still is power. Being quiet is power. Jerry and I talk about this all the time. She's been posting lately too about moving and how you move and who you move and how everyone that is with you now can't necessarily be with you later. I always talk about my village and I love my village. I need my village. And I use village on purpose. And there are people in my village who are like, ride or die, ride or die. And I'm finding as I'm moving into this different season that I'm adding more and more people to the village. Now, they're not necessarily in the center of the village. They're not in the town square. They may still be in the suburbs, right? But we have lunch, we have dinner, we connect, right? We refer, we build genuine connections. I'm not saying it's not valuable or that I'm blowing it off. No, no, no. As you move, as you grow, as you develop, you're going to need to bring people into your village, right? There may be people that you need to move out of your village, but you're going to need to expand your village, expand your relationships, expand your network as you continue to move and develop and grow. And you still need to know how to move in silence, even in that expansion. Because as you begin to bring people in your network, you got to spend some time to understand who these people are. And they need to spend time understanding who you are, because not everyone who says they have your best interest at heart does. Not everyone who says they're going to support you and build you up and they got exactly what you need means that. Some people are just trying to see how you move and what they can take, what they can repurpose, what they can use, what they can pretend that they did first. That's why people laugh at me all the time. They're like, wait, the first thing you did was create your LLC? Absolutely. I didn't have nothing else, but I had an LLC. What do you mean you trade? That's sure spending a lot of time and effort to copyright and trademark all your stuff. Absolutely. It's time and effort and money. And guess what? I own them. The Rutledge Perspective is mine. Radio show and podcast, they're mine. LKR Group LLC are mine. My podcast, the content I create, I own the copyright to that. I get to decide how that's used. And I encourage all of you to do the same, right? It's difficult when you're working in an organization, because if you're using organizations' resources, then it's very easy for them to say, if you get a patent, we own the patent. We'll put your name on it, but you used our resources to get it, so therefore it's ours. And for those of you who move organizations, that gets to be really difficult too, because you'll have these employment agreements that say you can't take anything with you and everything you created here is ours. And the challenge with that is, but what I created there came out of my mind and my brain. And it depends on what you're in. Like if you're in R&D, that's different. But if you're in any other thing, trainings you created, stuff you did, you are you. You're you. And so your brain doesn't all of a sudden drop all that stuff out of your brain just because you go work somewhere else. But this is why you also need to move in silence. You need to think 6, 7, 10, 12 steps ahead. You need to be playing chess, not checkers. Everybody doesn't need to know everything that you're doing. They just don't. Jerry, with all the postings that you've been doing lately too around kind of that movement, and you and I have been talking about this a lot, because you're starting to move in silence and just do your thing. How is that showing up for you?
Truthfully, I've always moved in silence. The deal is, because you don't share everything, everybody only has glimpses of what you share in your life. And
That's
I had
good.
to learn that a long time ago the hard way, because you just said the key word. There were a lot of people who will get with you in order to obtain the creativity, the ideas, and then you'll see them starting it somewhere else. And you're like, I just shared that. So you have to make sure that you're covered, because I come from that. I wouldn't do it, so they're not going to do it. Well, no, I don't feel like that any longer. So it works well for me. I know that it frustrates. And then I like what you said about even with the your circle, that you have to add to your circle.
Yeah.
And you can't have people who are concerned about you adding to your circle. Like, you don't spend time with
Right.
Because that's going to be nerve-wracking to you as you go to purpose. You just said it. You're going to need more elements to your circle, because everybody doesn't have everything you need.
Right.
If you're connecting with the right people. So sometimes you don't tell your circle that I'm hanging out with so-and-so, because if you know your circle, somebody in your circle might be sensitive. You don't bring in somebody else because they may, drop a seed that you don't need to hear right now, because you're trying to build relationship with other people. So it's working good for me.
Yeah.
It may frustrate somebody.
It may frustrate you, but I'm good. Yeah, I know. And Rolanda posted, her company also uplifted their plans to protect employees. Thank you. Yeah, we need to be doing that. Oh, I meant to say this at the very beginning. While companies, while you're fighting about or trying to figure out, I say fighting, while you're trying to figure out what you're going to do to help support your employees, how about this? You can still, one thing you can do is make Election Day a company holiday.
Yeah.
How about that? That is one thing you absolutely can do. Whether or not people go vote is none of your business, right? Like, it's like, focus on the what, the how is none of your business. You are making it available because you believe that it's everybody's right to be able to exercise that. How about you make it a company holiday? That's something you can do that should not have any ramifications. Now, in some of these crazy states that are trying to keep everybody from voting, they're probably going to say, oh, well, if it's a company holiday, we can't do that because you're letting too many people off. Really? So stop. Make it a paid holiday, especially companies, corporations. Go make this voting a holiday. Make it a floating holiday. If you don't want it to be a regular holiday, make it a floating holiday, right? We are shut down on this day so people can exercise their right to vote if they didn't vote early. I'm just saying, have voting registration drives. There's all kinds of stuff you can do to support people right now. So just sidebar, think about that. Okay, so moving in silence. Yeah, what Jerry said, actually, that's the same thing. You don't always tell everybody everything. Like especially, I know my grandmothers and stuff would always say, you just need to keep your business to yourself. Don't tell everybody your business. Don't tell everybody your business. When you've got people that are around you that are supporting you, that ability to discern who's really supporting and who's not, who's just hanging on, who's just riding the coattails, who's waiting for you to make it so they can then show up. Mm-hmm. You got to watch those people, right? So you see people, you see like a LeBron James, right? He and his wife, they've been together for 1,000,000 years, right? Since high school, I think. So talk about ride or die. And that's where they are. They are still there, right? So there are people that you meet early on that are going to be with you forever. My Friends for Life group, we've literally known each other since our mothers were pregnant. That's how long we've been together. I know that when something really crazy goes down, I got folks I can call and say, look, here's what's up. I need some help, right? And that's what my inner circle, all of the folks in my inner circle are like that. And then I also have people who I can say, hey, I'm looking for this thing, or I need some assistance, or I need some help. What do you think? Or, hey, I got someone. Can I connect them with you? I love connecting people. I've been doing a lot of that this last couple of months. I'll hear something for somebody who calls me to talk to me. And as I'm hearing them and as I'm listening actively, I'm like, you know what? I need to connect you with this person. Because you said this, this, and this. I got somebody to connect you to because they've got this, this, and this. And I just think it'd be a great perspective, right? I have no problem connecting people because I believe that comes back to you tenfold. Because it's not about me. Service is not about me. Service is about the other person. Servant leadership is not about you. It's about the other person. And moving in silence means you are able to serve in a way that makes some sense. And you are able to do things that need to be done that maybe people just don't understand. That they don't understand. And that you don't need to have an entourage to do. Sometimes you just got to be still and go alone. Right?
Laura, what about friends with benefits? And I don't mean it in the way that we know it.
Right.
But when you talk about, connecting the dots and doing it all, that, I've been a person that always has done that. Now, I will stop and hold up when I see that it's not reciprocated. That's not being petty. That's being protective of your energy and your resources.
Right.
So do you think that it's wise to because some people say, oh, you're funny acting, you only deal with a certain type of people. But you're looking for friends with benefits, that iron will sharpen iron?
Yes, iron sharpens iron. That's such a good question because although I saw somebody post, don't ever say that's such a good question, but that was a good question. And there are a few things in that to unpack. So one, relationships are reciprocal or should be. Should be. Now they change over time. They ebb and flow, right? There may be some times when one person is giving more than the other or one person needs more than the other, right? They ebb and flow. That's what relationships are about because it's life and we're human. But there should always be fundamentally, when you take it in at a whole, it is reciprocal. It is a partnership, right? Relationships are a partnership. There's an ability to gain something and give something, even if your gain is just the joy you get from serving. But if you go in and that's your thing, then that's your thing, right? But when you talk about iron sharpening iron and we talk about expanding our villages, I often say, because I heard it from someone else, I may have heard it from Lisa Nichols, go sit at the feet of people who are where you want to go. Whoever they are. I mean, I'm connected. You guys saw my podcast with Danielle P. Jeter and the Fireside Show. Young, and I always say HR person, right? I hate using that, but it's relevant. Let's say this, earlier career, right? Less life experience only because of years, right? How about that? Instead of just saying young. I just got 20, 30 years. I don't know. Just because of dates, right? Circumstance. But this woman has some exceptional talents and qualities and knowledge that I don't have. So who am I to say, oh, but I can't talk to her because she's young or she hadn't been around long enough. She has got some experience and insight that I need. And so I'm going to reach out, and I'm not going to ask for stuff for free, right? I'm not doing that. Pay people for the value they are delivering to you. Let me just make that side note. Pay people for the value they're delivering to you. But that ability to sit yourself beside and with and in the presence of people who are going to hold you accountable, who are going to lift you up, who are going to push you forward. That doesn't mean you have to be all full frontal with every detail of your goal, but you need to know enough about where you're trying to go to sit with people and to surround yourself with people who are going to help you get there. They say, tell me about you by showing me the 5 people you're closest to in your business, right? The 5 people you're closest to in your business, the 5 people you're listening to in your business, show me them and I'll show you how well your business is going to do. Think about that. And think about the fact that as you learn and as you grow and as you develop and as you build, that circle begins to look different. Again, the nucleus generally stays the same. That real tight, that stays the same. But all the stuff around it tends to move. And that's okay. It's okay because your needs change. You learn, you grow, you develop. You maybe shift into something different. As my guest, Janice Sutherland says, the swerve. You may swerve at some point and you just need something different. That doesn't mean that the person is not valuable, because your connection to them does not in and of itself dictate their value, nor their connection to you. Our value is not determined by someone else's value that they put on us, right? We have got to know our value intrinsically and then move that way. Move in silence. Know that you know the value that you bring. I have a whole manifesto. My business coach, Rebecca M. Thompson, I highly suggest you guys look her up if you're looking for a coach. Rebecca M. Thompson. She's incredible. She posted, or she had us do our own kind of manifesto, right? Our own kind of affirmations list. And one of the things I put in there is, I will continue to show up and deliver and deliver with excellence, because I always deliver. I do. It is my intent to always deliver, which is probably one of the reasons I get so hard on myself sometimes, because I'm like, man, my list is so long and I forgot to call that person. But I'm going to show up and I'm going to deliver. I'm going to do my best not to be behind. And I am not perfect. So there are going to be things that I forget. So I'm just asking for forgiveness now, right? I'm going to forget some things because life, and it's insane, right? But I'm going to deliver. I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to be one of those people that's going to say, you know what? Here's what happened. It's going to be early. It's not going to be last minute that says, oh, sorry, I know I said I was going to do that, but because see, I don't want you to do that to me. But as you move and as you decide who you are and what your value is, move in that. Because you don't have to go around touting. You don't have to have a sign over your head. Here's how valuable I am. Here's the value that I bring. You don't have to have a neon sign. You move like you have value. You engage like you know the value that you bring. People who have real money, you know it when you talk to them. You don't know it necessarily by their car or their house. You know it by who they're surrounded by. You know it by the places they show up. You demonstrate your value through your actions, not through your stuff. Move in silence. Now, you do sometimes have to be your own cheerleader. Don't get me wrong, especially in corporate America. You're going to have to learn how to tout your own horn and say, you know what, I am really good at that. Or I want to lead this project because I've got this, and this that is needed for this project. And I know some other people who can fill these gaps because this is stuff I don't know, and I intend to learn it. So the next time I'll be able to do all of that. You've got to be able to toot your own horn. You've got to be able to stand up and say, no, you're not going to treat me that way just because you think you can. You do have to be able to be vocal when necessary, but that vocalization doesn't necessarily include everything you're thinking all the time. So all you out loud processors, sometimes you need to learn how to process internally. Those of you who are like me, I'm the kind of leader, I'm a collaborative leader. I like to get in the room, throw everything up against the wall. Let's just talk about it. Let's figure out what we're going to do, and they're going to move. That doesn't mean that's my preference. Now, I can absolutely be an autocrat and say, this is where we're going. Here's your part. Here's your part. I can do that. I prefer collaboration, but I can be that dictator if I need to. But I also know enough about myself to know that sometimes that throwing things up against the wall, making sure people are engaged, sometimes people think when we're having the conversation that, oh, but what are we going to do? We're confused. So in doing so, I have to be really clear when we leave. Okay, so what was the decision? Here's the decision. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we're moving. Not everybody's comfortable in the conversation piece. Not everybody's comfortable in the processing piece. So you need to pay attention to that, right? But if you are an external processor, if you are a kind of messy process person, you like the mess, you like to mix it up and get the different perspectives and understand, just know that everybody doesn't work that way. And know when reining that in, even for you, makes more sense. There have been many times in meetings where I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm done. So when y'all decide what you want, then let's keep moving. We can you just let me know when you're ready. You just let me know. Because see, we've had this conversation multiple times. I'm done now. I'm not having this conversation again. Let's just make a decision and let's keep moving. And I mean it. And then I get silent.
Well, is there a difference in sometimes you can move in silence and sometimes, like you just said, you figure out, you don't have a dog in this fight. Like we were talking about the situation with the Roe versus Wade. Mm-hmm. And I said I had gotten silent. I hadn't said anything on social media because 2020 already wiped out half my friends list. So I was like, maybe we should just shut up. And then I realized you got a whole platform at KCOH.
Right.
So you can move in silence in one area, but then say, okay, it's more advantageous of me to do it in this area.
Yeah. To whom much is given, much is expected, right? You got to use your platforms to speak if you can, because there are those who have no platform, who have no place to speak. And so yes, I think it depends. There are places when you'll move in silence and there are places when you'll say something and you make the choice. There are going to be people who decide, yeah, I'm not following her anymore. I'm not talking to her anymore. I'm not. Okay. Love you, mean it. But if you're that offended by me just being me, then that's probably a good decision for you. Because I got to be me. And me also means being as clear and as respectful. I'm not going to call you out of your name. I'm not going to do all that kind of nasty stuff. I'm not going to let you hurt my family. And I'm not going to let you just mistreat me just because. That's not going to happen. I'm like everybody else, like on LinkedIn and everywhere else. Come at me if you want to. Get ready to be blocked and reported to your employer. I will be tagging them. I have no problems doing that. Coming out of HR, I got no problem. And let me tell you, there are employers that when they get that stuff, they're looking at it. So I'm putting y'all on notice. When someone says they're tagging your employer, understand that there is someone that's watching, because if you have them in your list as where you work, especially on LinkedIn, and you are now creating a situation where you may hurt their brand, they're paying attention to that. So don't get so confident that you think you can't be hurt and you can just come at people all kinds of ways. Yes, social media gives a lot of cover to people to be nasty anonymously. Folks are tired of that too, y'all. Everybody who's been moving in silence and just allowing kind of the cyberbullying and all that, people are tired. Mm-hmm. People are tired. Now, what has happened is the fatigue came a little late, but people are tired now. And so moving in silence, understand that in some cases, silence can mean consent. If you say nothing, you're just saying, okay, I agree, right? Silence can be taken as consent. Sometimes silence means, maybe I better move. Maybe it's the quiet before the storm. It's the quiet before the storm. Think about it as you were growing up. When your folks were yelling and screaming and fussing and fighting and all this kind of stuff, you could tune that out. When they got real quiet and you had to strain to hear, then you knew it was serious. When people start whispering, when people take their voice down, when their tone comes down a little bit, when they're unemotional, when the face is flat, that means you need to really listen to what's about to come out of their mouth, because they've reached a whole different level of done, especially marginalized people who have been told and treated as if being passionate or having a position is somehow, for me, angry Black woman, that you don't know how to control your anger, that how we show up, the very way we show up and the way we express our opinions about things is easily dismissed because it's just emotional. We got your emotion. We got your emotion, right? Get silent. Get active. Move where you need to move. Do what you need to do. Take into account everything you can. Listen actively, and don't hurt yourself because you're mad at them. Don't do any of that. But you don't have to tell everybody everything. You just don't. You just don't. You have to get strategic. When you are in battle, you have to be strategic.
Say that again.
When you are in battle, you have to be strategic. You may lose little skirmishes here or there, but when you are in battle, you're trying to win the big war. Don't worry about those little skirmishes.
Lord,
what was the learning?
It was said that when a woman leaves her husband, when a woman leaves a marriage, she's left 6 months ago because she's preparing. You know, she's got the bank account, she's got a new apartment.
Right.
And then 6 months later, the bank account is wiped out and she's gone and she's already got a furniture order.
Right.
And all of that. So is that what you're talking about, referring to moving in silence? Because that sounds like a game plan.
Yes, it's a game plan. Hey, Lena, you're welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Yes, you got to get quiet. You got to get quiet. You got to move in silence. And that's a lot of times people, this is a gender thing, right? So let me just call that out. This is a gender thing. They tell you a lot of times, or guys, you'll hear guys say this a lot too. You're good as long as she keeps arguing. When she stops arguing, that's when you're really in trouble. Mm-hmm. That's so true. That's so true. Because women, we have a tendency to fight, right? We have a tendency to fight for something. I want you to hear me. I want you to be in. I want you to understand. I want this to work. We tend to be in it to win it until we're not. That goes for relationships, right? Personal relationships. That goes for professional relationships. That goes for the company you're in, right? We're going to fight. I'm going to do everything I'm going to try to help you live the values of this organization that you said you wanted to live. I am going to fight for them. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to say the thing that's not being said. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak truth to power. And if you keep doing it, and I've had to do it for 5 years, okay, yeah, see, what you're telling me is you're saying good words, but you don't really mean it. And so now I'm tired. I can take my expertise, I can take my energy somewhere else and help someone else fight for what they really want. When it's performative, I'm out. If you're just trying to make sure you check the box, you're just trying to go somewhere and pay somebody so you can be on the best of list, I'm out. Good morning, Sarah. I'm out. You go do that. Get somebody else, pay somebody else to help you do that. I'm not doing that. We're not just going to put window dressing. We're not going to put lipstick on this pig. We're going to call a pig, and we're going to try to dress that pig up as much as we can authentically, but we're not going to call that pig a cat. We're not going to do that, right? So learn how moving in silence actually is a power play. And we're going to do some shout outs here.
You got the Philippines is in the building.
Yay!
New Zealand is in the building. Brazil is in the building. Portugal is in the building.
Oh, Portugal!
United Kingdom is in the building. France is in the building. Puerto Rico, that is to come, is in the building. Germany is in the building. Finland is in the building.
Yay! Welcome, y'all.
Guatemala City is in the building. Yep. Auckland.
Yep. Auckland. I think isn't Auckland in New Zealand? I think.
Well, I'm asking you.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Calabasas.
Yes.
Casablanca is in the
Casablanca,
building.
yes.
Swindon is in the building.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a new one. Rogue. Say Rogue.
Oh.
Is in the building.
Okay, awesome.
La Paz is in the building.
Yeah, Bolivia. Hola, Bolivia.
Lisbon is in the building.
Lisbon
is in the building. You've got Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, Florida, New York, Pittsburgh, Austin. Say how do you come?
Hey, Austin.
San Antonio, Los Angeles, Kansas City, You got Dallas, Fort Worth, Chicago, and Houston.
I love it.
You got Missouri City. You got Acres Home.
Mo City,
And
Acres
you
Homes.
got the Green. You got Conroe.
Oh, yay, Conroe. And I've got Odessa, Houston, and Lena. I don't remember where you are. You moved. Are you in Monahans now, I think? So, yes. And my Odessa peeps, I know they're on there. So thank you guys for showing up. Portugal. See, this is how I know folks are listening. Portugal, you are on my list. I am determined to get to Portugal, and I would love to come do a live broadcast in Portugal. So y'all let me know. Oh, Lena's back in Odessa. Good morning, Odessa. I am determined to get to Portugal. So Portugal, reach out to me. No falo bem português, but I'll work on it. Okay, I'll work on speaking Portuguese, or maybe I'll speak Spanish and y'all can speak Portuguese to me. We'll work it out. But I am determined to get to Portugal. So I'm there. Y'all want me there? I'm there. I'll come speak. I'll come do workshops. I'll come, yes, and yes. You reach me on laurelrutledge.com. There's a thing that says book Laurel. Talk to me. I'm ready. All of you guys, actually, I am masked up, gloved up, vaxxed up, boosted up. I am ready to serve. So we're going to be doing some things too, going at the end of 2022 into 2023. With some on-location stuff. I'm determined to do that because I am so thankful and grateful that all of you show up, that I want to come meet you. I want to come see you, and I want to come do some things where you are. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be some of that happening. We've got the technology now to do it. So we're just going to make some of that stuff happen. So thank all of you around the world for being here. Those of you who are new first, I think Lisbon, this might be the first time that Lisbon was in the top 10. So thank you. Bolivia, I love Bolivia too. So all y'all, Finland, Germany, spend a lot of time in Germany.
City, but I did say Missouri.
Yep, most city. So thank you guys for showing up. Think about where you can move in silence this week. Don't tell everybody everything. Now, that means move. I don't mean just get silent. I mean, move in silence. Take your time, develop your strategy, and then get moving. Just don't tell everybody all your business because they don't need to know.
I think you need to say that again because you see that posted a lot on Facebook. I'm moving in silence, but they're telling everybody to keep moving.
Right?
Okay, so what are you doing? So tell them, because the moving in silence means there is movement. Though.
There is movement. Moving in silence doesn't mean you sit still. Now, you might have to get quiet just to get yourself together in the beginning. That has to happen to me all the time, right? Sometimes I just need to be still and be away and be focused to get my mind right and get my spirit right so that I can show up the way I want to show up. That is real. But then you got to move. That's why I call my academy Empowered Action Academy. Oh, applications close tomorrow for the Empowered Action Academy, the group 3-month group coaching. So that closes tomorrow. You got to move. Moving in silence. The key word is moving. Move. Do something. Do something. We all have the power to speak truth to power. We all have power to move. We all have a choice. We do have a choice. Despite this decision, we do have a choice and we have choices. What we need to do now is move in a way that we don't continue to have more and more of our choices taken away. Also, real quick note, be careful what you're reading on Facebook. Be careful what you're posting. Lots of stuff about we're in Handmaid's Tale. We're in Handmaid's Tale. Be careful about that. Because see, Black women, brown women, indigenous women, we've been in this place for 400 years. This is not new. This is not new Handmaid's Tale for us. This has been us for a while. I saw somebody post the other day, be careful about calling people Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom and Harriet Beecher Stowe. Harriet, see, those of you who watch King and I, Harriet Beecher Stowe. Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Uncle Tom was not necessarily someone who was a bad figure. So think about that. There is lots of learning. There's lots of insight to be gained. People are really sharing vulnerably their stories right now. Lots of women are sharing vulnerably their stories right now. Show them some respect, show them some love. If you dissent, fine, dissent, but don't be nasty. Don't be nasty. And get into action. Go register to vote, go show up, vote local. It starts local, vote local. And don't believe the drama right now, because see now, these folks who have supported this decision, see how upset people are. So now they're saying things like, oh, but we've got $100 million to help people. And we got, stop it. We still got an electrical grid that can't stay on all the time. So I'm just saying, look, we call it like it is. So I'm just saying, don't let the shiny new object keep you from the truth. Listen to what people say, believe what they do. What have they been doing? And what makes you think that their actions are going to be different now? Go vote, go get registered, make your voice heard. Elections have consequences. Love you guys. Show up next week, Tuesday. I'm going to have a lot of stuff coming out. Lots of great guests coming. I'm trying to get this lawyer on so we can talk about the policies and all that kind of stuff in the U.S. Globally. See you next week. Portugal, I'm coming to you. Bye.